At national headquarters, we get a lot of questions about voting. So here is a mini training on how voting works. Let's start with, what is a delegate? A delegate is a member in good standing of an auxiliary, elected by the auxiliary to cast votes for the auxiliary at a meeting or convention where delegates are registered at credentials. The name of the elected delegates and alternates should be put in the minutes of the auxiliary for their meeting. Auxiliaries elect delegates for each level they have. If you belong to a district, you will elect district delegates. If you belong to a department, you will elect department delegates. All auxiliaries belong to the national organization, so all auxiliaries elect national delegates. The number of delegates you are allowed to elect on each level is in your bylaws. All delegates for all levels are elected in April. Now, who should you elect as a delegate? Elect someone that you anticipate will attend the meeting or convention. If no one plans to attend, consider electing your line officers. Remember, you may have a member that does not attend the regular meetings, but may be planning to go to the department or national convention this year. So consider putting them in as a delegate. Even if only one delegate from your auxiliary attends and registers their credentials, that one delegate can cast the entire voting strength of the auxiliary.
Why do we have to elect alternates? Alternates are elected just in case, as a precaution. In case of what, you ask? If there are no delegates able to attend. Remember, life happens. The members you elect may plan to be at an event, but couldn't make it. Alternates are your backup plan. Who should you consider electing as an alternate? Many members have the opportunity to vote as a president on certain levels, or as a past president, or as a current officer. The reason to elect them as an alternate is if there are no delegates or other alternates present. They can vote as the delegate instead of casting their individual officer vote. They must be sure to inform the credentials chairman or team how they are voting. So what are credentials? A credential is a document that provides how a member is entitled to vote. For example, as a delegate or an alternate or past president or current treasurer. The credentials committee are appointed by the president on each level. The national president appoints the national credentials chairman and co-chairman for the national convention. When members arrive at a convention or at a meeting where you are voting on resolutions, they should go to the credentials table to register their credentials. This lets the credentials committee know how the member plans to vote.
And why is that important?
You have to register with credentials in order to be counted. You may have choices when registering, so the credentials committee needs to know how you want to vote, but not who you plan to vote for. You may hold more than one office that has a vote, or you may be the alternate and no other delegates or alternates are there. Once you decide, can you change your mind? Yes, but only up until the time credentials closes. Once credentials close, the committee will tabulate the number registered, what the majority is, and what you need for a 2/3 vote. The committee will announce this prior to voting. A motion by the committee or a motion and a second with an affirmative vote is needed to approve this report to voting. So what's next?
Well, since it varies slightly by district and department, this is how we handle this on a national level. The National Convention rules state the order of how votes will be cast. We currently rotate the departments by conference. This will be followed by auxiliaries unaffiliated with the department, finally followed by individual votes. When there is a contested election or a need for a roll call vote, the credentials chairman comes up to the microphone and says, for example, the name of their state, one president and 100 delegates for a total of 101. The president voting as a delegate for a total of 100. The president, senior vice, or junior vice may cast the votes for the entire department. They would give the vote as the following. For example, department president gives name. We cast 34 votes for candidate A using the last name of the candidate and 67 votes for candidate B using the candidate's last name. If the president, senior vice, or junior vice are not in attendance, or if the auxiliary does not have a department, the auxiliary would be called on by auxiliary number in numerical order.
Voting continues until only one candidate remains. Now, what does that mean? If there are two candidates and one drops out, voting stops and a winner is declared. If there are three candidates and one drops out, voting starts over with the other two candidates. If there are three candidates and none drop out, the candidate with the lowest number of votes is removed and you start over with the two remaining candidates. If there are three candidates and none drop out, and the judge and tellers determine a majority has been reached after completing the count, the judge will announce the results for this office. Voting should not cease unless a candidate drops out or the judge announces the result. If there are no objections to the results or the procedures prior to the close of the meeting, the election stands.
So here are some frequently asked questions about delegates, voting, and credentials.
Does a pro tem officer get to cast a vote as that officer?
No, they were not elected or appointed to that position. They are just filling in for that meeting.
Can a member vote electronically when credentials are registered?
No, you must be there in person to register your credentials.
I pre-registered for National Convention. Why am I not listed as a delegate?
Pre-registering for National Convention has nothing to do with delegates and voting. Once you are elected as a delegate or alternate, it is up to your secretary to enter into Malta all national delegates and alternates. The member themselves can actually see if the secretary entered them as a delegate or alternate by going into Malta on their homepage. All national delegates and alternates must be entered by May 31st. The only exception is for an auxiliary instituted in the month of June. Once you arrive at the National Convention, you must register your credentials.
In Malta, delegates and alternates show on your homepage in red once the secretary enters them. On this page, it shows that there was delegate. This person is a delegate at the 2026 National Convention in Reno, Nevada. On this page, it shows the person is registered as an alternate at the 2026 National Convention in Reno, Nevada. Again, you will find them on your home page in Malta once the secretary enters them. Thank you for watching this training on delegates, alternates, credentials, and voting.